name's Rex. She'll call me Captain.
What if I told you that the Republic was now under the control of the Dark Lord of the Sith?
The shroud of the dark side has fallen.
I'm heavy.
Begun. The Clone War has.
This is The World Between Worlds, a Star Wars podcast where we are marathoning the complete Star Wars saga, including the Clone Wars and Rebels. And right now we are on Season 6 of the Clone Wars. This is the return of Rush Clovis.
Clovis? What exactly does Clovis have to do with this?
Rush was introduced as a previous love for Padme way back when. Guess what? I guess Padme has a thing for total douchebags because this guy...
It makes me like Padme like a lot less. Like
that she was ever interested in him?
Well, but then they said something in these episodes where they were like, haha, do you remember when we helped that entire planet not starve? So I guess they have that history together of like working together in the Senate, both being ideologically, good and on the same side.
Yeah, but then just something happened.
He just seems like really into money, and he's like, I believe in the banks. The banks are working. It's like, okay, I guess they're like a neutral institution in the universe, but
it was really hard to like him, in the original arc, and then we pick up with that in this arc, and Padme rightfully is kind of, there's a lot of tension there between him and her, between him and Anakin, and so on. And it uses their backstory and politics to both push an interesting dramatic story that has, a bigger political message as well, and I appreciated that. This is the Rise of Clovis arc. My name is Yates.
My name is Jessica.
My name is Keats.
We're talking about Season 6, Episode 5, An Old Friend, Episode 6, Rise of Clovis, and Episode 7, Crisis at the Heart. Oh, Jordan, this is another rare episode where Jordan is not here.
Yo!
He was busy, but he also was just not hyped on the Clovis arc. But I think at the end of the day, he missed out because this arc was pretty good. I was really shocked.
Good.
Yeah.
It was like movie level.
Yeah, it was awesome. It also kind of felt like the content of it, felt like, moving away from Darth Maul, moving away from, so many of the bigger plotty stuff, and, Ahsoka obviously out of the picture. It felt almost like a season, 1 arc, but just done, way more intensely and better, I think.
It also shows that there's a lot of plots going on at the same time. There's the Ahsoka side, there's the clone side. Now they're doing the whole Padme Senate banking.
And we were complaining with the past few weeks that Padme where has Padme? It feels like they dropped off with Padme and Padme's story. So it was good to get a final Padme arc that I very much liked. In An Old Friend, Padme revisits. Not Hoth, Scipio. Padme's there to make a big withdrawal for the Chancellor, and what do you know, Rush Clovis is there, and he's representing the banking clan. But while Padme is extremely resistant to working with him, he reveals that he thinks there is a plot of vast reach to potentially discredit the banking clan and to defraud the Republic and potentially the Separatists. Money is disappearing. What's going on? And they're there to find out.
The simple fact is the economics of this war are not adding up. You're here for a bank transfer, but I can assure you, there is no money in the bank.
That's absurd. They were ready to give me the funds today.
Oh, they will give you your first installment, yes. But they're robbing one side to save the other. The entire banking clan is on the verge of collapse.
Collapse? Where's the evidence?
In the vault. The accounts are sealed there and no one is allowed to see them besides the core 5.
Yeah, and I was a little bit confused once the episode started because, like, this is following the season 3 arc where they deregulate the banks. So it's like, how much money isn't there already? Or is this a bank for the separatists, or...
So what is that planet?
I'm pretty sure that is the moon from the Trespass episode way back.
I like the name Scipio.
Scipio.
Makes me think of peanut butter.
It's like Scorpio, Skippy the peanut butter.
They're two of my favorite things, Scorpios and Skippy crunchy peanut
Yeah,
butter.
it's like mysterious.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways.
As I understand it, this is like where the central physical bank for the banking clan is. The banking clan exists on another planet, but because of the war and because there are two governments that need to utilize the funds, this is a neutral station where the funds are actually held for whatever reason. And
yeah, that's right, because the troopers and the separatists are there, and they're like, you can't enter past the neutral checkpoint, or something like that.
yeah, correct.
Like no outsiders. It's like Gringotts.
It is, sure. Jessica, is there a Star Trek analogy, Jessica?
The Ferengi.
Every Ferengi business transaction is governed by 285 rules of acquisition to ensure a fair and honest deal for all parties concerned. Well, most of them anyway.
The Ferengi.
Which are like and I'm Jewish, so I can say this, but they're like the space Jews.
Nice.
They have like big
Very
ears.
Very progressive of Star Trek.
Yeah, it was totally fucked up. And they have like big ears, and their ears are like their dicks. Like,
wow,
like
incredible.
People like touch their, like hookers touch their ears, and like it makes them like really horny. Like their ears are androgynous zones. So they don't get into that in Star Wars. And also like the Ferengi like believe in greed. Mm-hmm. Like that's their code. But one cool thing that I remember about the Ferengi is like they
showed up in Deep Space Nine, right?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. In Deep Space Nine, like one of the main characters is a Ferengi, and he says something about humans look down on Ferengi for being greedy, but we never enslaved other Ferengis.
Interesting.
So maybe like we're not like so immoral after all. Like you guys are also greedy. So they're like cool. They have like
there's more going on. It's not it looks more two-dimensional than it actually is.
Just like everything in Star Trek. It's always about like look at yourself. But
that's cool. We don't get that from the banking clan in Star Wars.
But I thought the banking clan looked different than these Easter Island head people. I thought that it was like that one guy who
Viceroy?
Viceroy.
So they're different. They're the Trade Federation. So they don't own the bank. But of course, all of these corporations, the corporate alliances, are in bed with each other. And
I would love to know what all these corporations are. Like, is one of them Coca-Cola? Like, obviously there's a military one, but what are the rest of them?
They seem like less like late stage capitalism and more like industrial capitalists that are like, I own the railroad, I own oil, like I own like this mineral resource, instead of like I own like a social media company. Like,
yeah, that's not going on.
It's much like more, which would be like an interesting spin-off of Star Wars.
Yeah, that's
like
sequel trilogy.
late stage capitalism Star Wars.
In Resistance, they have like dartboards and like video games. So I think we're getting there. Like by the sequel trilogy, like there's
video games.
They have
wow, interesting.
Yeah, and other weird stuff. So I think that we're kind of there at that point. But yeah, here in the prequels, it is weird. It seems like these like monopolies like have existed for a very long time.
Yeah, and they're like monopolies of like natural resources.
Yeah, like the Trade Federation, we control all trade, you know, like.
Yeah, they're not like, we control Disney.
Yeah, no.
We're so powerful.
Yeah. It was really funny because I didn't know how much this episode delved into it, but I was talking with some of my friends about this earlier, like in the week. Like someone was like, how does money work in Star Wars? Like, what's the deal with the Trade Federation? What happens to them after the Empire? And over the course of this episode, I think we kind of see what that arc looks like overall. I like seeing that.
So here's like another like Star Wars, Star Trek thing. So in Star Trek, like humans don't use money. That's a thing where it's like, I'm a human, like I don't use money. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like a cool thing. But the universe does use money, and they use like Latinum. That's the like Star Trek currency. And of course, like some humans,
different cultures have like just different, you know.
No, but like the Latinum is like the like universal currency. But I was wondering that with Star Wars, like what is like the universal currency?
I have 20,000 Republic dactaries.
Republic credits?
Republic credits are no good out here. I need something more real.
I don't have anything else, but credits will do fine.
No, they won't.
Credits will do fine.
No, they won't.
Aren't there Imperial credits as well?
Yeah, but I mean, same thing. Like Republic credits, Imperial credits.
No, yeah, but I feel like there's probably no more like Separatist credits if there ever were.
Although I am like reading a book now, and I was talking to you guys about this, where I was talking about like the invention of money. Mm-hmm. Now we're talking about like human lore, our human.
Tune out.
And they were talking about how like in different empires, like the currency would still be recognized. Like the Roman and like the Ottoman Empire, like you could use like Roman Empire currency. But do you think that there's like this big, like massive like inflation or like deflation of currencies
in Star Wars, like after, you know, because they don't get to that, whereas like the different shifts in power, like what happens to like the markets. This is the type of content I crave. I want more about the economics of Star Wars. I think the only thing that we know about the transition is, I believe basically by the time of the Empire, the wealthier core worlds like Coruscant continue to get rich, and then the poorer planets like Tatooine get even poorer.
Okay.
That's, you know, and that affects the black market too. Like, there's more Han Solos and Boba Fett's but in the original trilogy than there are like in the prequel trilogy, I would say.
Right.
Like, just because that type of lifestyle is the only way to make fast money in large amounts if you're living on the fringes.
And then would you say about the new trilogy that instead of there being more Han Solos and Boba Fett's, it's more like refugees banding together, like forming militias
then again,
to strike back or whatever.
I would like to think that, but then like in like The Last Jedi at the end, it's like the whole resistance is like 40 people. So like I feel like that's like more of like a microcosm, but we don't know because episode 9 isn't out yet.
And that will reveal everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
J.J. Abrams cares about answering that question.
in the novel Bloodline, which precedes The Force Awakens, like basically directly, the resistance doesn't really start until Leia's like excommunicated, basically out of like the Senate, and then she starts her own resistance, and that is like the resistance that we see, and even that's like 15 people.
I think the sequel trilogy is basically filled with like the equivalent of like a baby boomer generation, where it's just like most of the people are probably like Poe Damerons that grew up like everyone had sex after the Empire was destroyed, and there's just a bunch of people that like grew up like after that. So
are you saying that the resistance is millennials?
Sure.
Wow.
I mean,
hot take.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, the resistance are all a part of the resistance because they have massive student loan debt.
Yes, that's true. That's why
they can't buy houses.
Everyone was secretly like high-fiving when the Republic exploded because they didn't need to owe them anymore.
It was the Republic.
Rush Clovis.
So yeah, Clovis was like reintroduced in an interesting way because he kind of just comes on screen and then immediately is shunned. Just like, I'm not going to participate in this if Clovis is in the same room as me. Goodbye. And I was just like, thank you. That's exactly
okay,
what I want.
bye, Rush Clovis.
And then she completely waffles on that afterwards.
Well, I forget. How did it end with his arc in season 2? Did he sell plans for money, or was he a part, like the secret separatist? I forget how it worked.
I think he got away. But like his friendship with Padme was like permanently destroyed because she got poisoned.
Right. Well, I'm just mean like,
and his like business ties with the separatists got like severed as well.
Right. But so like, was he like a full-on separatist, or was he just neutral, selling for money?
I think he was kind of almost like a lobbyist. Like he was working with like the Trade Federation and the separatists and like helping them fundraise and like special interests and stuff like that.
I actually liked him more in this arc, like overall, in a surprising way. But their relationship is really bad. I mean, he's constantly like trying to be like, "Ooh, let's do something," and she's like, "No, no, no, no."
Yeah,
no.
it is kind of like
he like doesn't stop trying.
Yeah, it's. I'm sure she was probably really uncomfortable, but it's weird.
It's for the Republic.
That's what she says over and over again. You think Padme would like have another way of dealing with that, but the whole Star Wars saga. I mean, I feel like Padme's definitely one of the most underserved characters, but sometimes the movies and the show plays up how smart Padme is, and then in other instances she makes some clear like decisions that are like, you know, wrong, or like you'd think she would be smart enough to find another way around. And in regards to this episode, her whole relationship with Clovis and Anakin eventually definitely seemed like part of that, just sort of either the writers, you know, failing her character in terms of making it consistent, or, you know, just making Padme sort of go through more sort of extreme changes than maybe we thought made sense. I don't know. I definitely felt like the first episode ends with like Clovis already betraying them, but then, you know, he doesn't, so.
Yeah. I kind of like the fact, though, that even though we as the audience hate him already, that he has like a really crucial piece of information. Like, that's a really smart in to like get us to like him more.
Yeah.
Well, he does try. I mean, he's trying. He's actually trying to do the right thing.
I think as the episode goes along, you get that impression more.
He's trying to do the right thing, but I think that the concept of this whole arc was really cool, and I like the themes. But the whole execution of it was just like a lot was going on, and it was kind of disorienting of like, okay, like what's going on now? Like,
yeah, like
why?
You said, the whole infiltration at the beginning was kind of confusing, right?
And also like at the end, like he's just like quickly became like the head of the banks. And,
yeah,
like,
it definitely seemed like they were rushing it. I've said it a million times. It's like they accelerate the political reality of the Star Wars universe in order to make it easier for kids to understand.
Also to make up for lost time.
To make it easier for kids to understand, but like, I guess I'm like an infant because I don't get it.
That's something Jordan would say. Maybe, did Jordan get ghosted? Is he channeling Jessica right now?
Yeah, Jordan's mad ghosted.
Though I said earlier that it was kind of cool for Clovis to have like this information to try to get us to like him more. That is the part of the episode that I liked a lot, but the parts that I didn't really feel connected to was the whole infiltration thing, because granted I was talking over the whole thing, so I wasn't really paying that much attention, but the whole thing of like not even turning off the power but destroying like their generators, like why would you go that excessive in the first place? Don't you want to like leave it more subtle? And Enbo's whole role into this, like what was he trying to accomplish?
I couldn't tell if the banking clan knew what was going on or if they didn't know, or I couldn't tell like if her assistant was turning against her or if she wasn't. Like I couldn't tell if the sniper was on their side or if he wasn't. And I guess because that's like a thing in Star Wars where it's like someone is like betraying them and they don't know. It was like hard to like...
You're trying to anticipate where the story is going.
It's like, okay, is this going according to plan or like not according to plan? Like it was hard to keep it all straight.
At first, I actually thought that Embo was hired by Clovis in order to like use his like, oh, they're targeting me, you have to try and trust me now because you see that all of them are trying to kill me.
Yeah, I think I kind of thought that too, especially with Clovis like going onto her balcony, and then like the bounty hunter Embo is like also there at that exact same time.
What was that about? Like who were they trying to kill? Are they trying to kill Clovis? I don't get it.
Yeah, I think the bounty hunter is like the biggest question mark. Okay, so in terms of the infiltration scene, I think I was paying attention to what was going on. They blow up the generator, and that is always part of the plan, was to blow up the generator. And originally Clovis was going to do that, but then the
guy was like, where are you going?
And he was like, oh, nowhere. And then the handmaiden goes instead.
Then he like gave it to the...
Yeah, so he would have probably died, I guess, but he didn't. So
was
the girl
he like
died.
planning on dying?
I don't know, because I don't think... Because the Embo wasn't working for him. He was working for Darth Sidious, they reveal at the end of the episode. But
oh, right.
Yeah, but then even still, that doesn't really make sense. I mean,
it's like, why was he working for Darth Sidious? Like, what was he trying to do?
I feel like he was just trying to just make everything complicated, maybe. I
think he was trying to be there because they needed like a fight scene or a chase scene.
I agree.
You know.
I think that was probably the actual reason why they need a fight scene at the end, and I guess it's really the only big fight scene in the whole arc. But I liked it. It was fun. But the whole point was for her to put her space USB stick into the space USB port to take out the space bank information, and that says that basically they're like laundering money or something to that effect, where like basically
they're laundering money to like just individuals.
And and it's true, and they find out that there's like next to no money. So if the Republic banks are deregulated and there's no money in the neutral banks, then the only banks left are the separatist banks. So when we get to like situations like this where it's like everything feels very convoluted in terms of like the economic sense of it all, like how much of that actually like ruins the arc for you? Because even though it didn't make sense, I still really enjoyed this arc. Maybe not the first episode.
I totally agree.
But I think particularly the first episode for me, it kind of ruined just because I found myself just drifting off way too much, and they didn't get enough into the personal details that they do for the second and third episode.
It was a little tedious, but I think the broad strokes of it make sense. While they like you can nitpick it, which is the case with a lot of stories.
Yeah.
It's not mutually exclusive to Star Wars. Like you can. Yeah. Tear apart the logic in basically anything, but
I do think that like a really good story, like Game of Thrones, is awesome with this.
Just in terms of the politics,
in terms of the banks?
You're just that too, but like where you're like you can follow all of the like strategy and be like, oh shit, like I see what they did there, like that was a brilliant plan, and it like all gets like pulled off in the end. Whereas this one, like, it's true with a lot of stuff where you're just like, huh? But, like, it still works. Like, I still found it very enjoyable, but I also think that's because Star Wars is very broad. And, like, as we were saying, like, there's a lot going on. Like, there's, like, the Darth Maul stuff. There's the Ahsoka stuff. There's, like the banking stuff is just, like, an extra little nougat. It's not, like, the
That's how I felt
crux of
about it being like, I didn't need it, but getting it felt like rewarding, and the broad strokes of it made sense, and I think also like played into the overall Star Wars narrative in terms of how this war changes the power dynamics of the whole galaxy. Rise of Clovis. The characters return to Coruscant, and Clovis makes his case to the Senate that bad shit's going on with the banking clan. Anakin's reservations about Clovis escalate to a huge rift between him and Padme over the course of this episode. Meanwhile, Clovis is sort of being seduced into being his old, evil, grumpy self, even though he started off with the best intentions. And I think we learn a little bit about the love triangle. I guess that's sort of it's the rough outline of a love triangle.
The fight scene in this episode was Anakin like pounding on Clovis.
Yeah, that was a nice change of pace.
Anakin, no!
Why don't you try fighting like a man without your Jedi tricks?
Oh, it would be my pleasure.
Anakin's like, I call your bluff. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you.
He went full on, like, just lost it.
Yeah, he lost it. It was a lot.
My heart was pounding.
It's basically an incident of domestic abuse in Star
violence,
Wars. Yeah.
And they have a really like screwed up dynamic.
Yeah.
Where he's like, he told her like multiple times, like,
you mean Anakin and Padme?
You. Yeah, Anakin, I forbid you from doing this.
Yeah.
And she's just like, what?
It's like this Clovis, who's this total wimp. He comes in and he's like, he's the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's like, he's the one that like, causes like this already fragile, tenuous relationship between them to like crumble instantly.
Right. No, yeah, it's like, what kind of like horrible trope of a man are you going to choose, Padme? Are you going to choose the banker or are you going to choose the cop? They're both horrible choices.
They both.
And you're attracted to both of them.
Or anything else, yeah. Just the best part of the fight to me was just watching like Clovis react to getting punched. Just like the whole time he was just like basically invincible that whole time. It's just like the more you pound on me, the more you lose.
I didn't get that from it.
That's how the entire fight ends. I mean, he has to make up for Anakin.
Right. Well, he ends up being like the good guy and like the winner because he doesn't rat Anakin out.
Yeah, he's not a tattletale.
But he still like allowed the fight to happen. I mean, he was like all for it at the beginning because he was like, how far? Well, because Anakin's a Jedi, so like he thinks that this is gonna go in his favor, but it just absolutely does not.
Why would Clovis think it would go in his favor? Because Anakin's a Jedi.
Because Jedi are peaceful.
Oh.
But I don't think he ever gets the impression that he's a peaceful person. I'm sure
Clovis is also not a celebrity, but like he's
rich and like well known.
Yeah, all eyes are on him now that he's back on the planet, and Anakin's just gonna go like walk in and beat the shit out of him and potentially kill him. Like,
yeah, that's what I meant basically when I was talking about like how he's not invincible, but how like he wins either way.
But I get what you're saying, where it's like, what's the end game?
Yeah.
Like, he can't, like, beat him to death.
Well, Anakin was about to, but
I think
he had to
was
stop
really,
himself.
but I mean, it's also a kids show, so.
Yeah, he did stop
They're not-
himself. He
yeah.
could have, but I don't think he would.
Well, I
have.
think it's a big, like, it's the line that Anakin's constantly treading. I feel like the shame about what he did in Attack of the Clones, the slaughter of the Tusken Raiders, like, I think that shame, like, is the only thing that's, like, pulling him back. Other than, like, the obvious pressures of, like, oh, if, like, I murder people, like, I'll lose my friends or I'll lose my job. I'll lose my place in the Jedi Order.
I think, like, Anakin is also still good.
Yeah, well, I think
he's
it's
still good, to be honest.
Yeah, I he has good intentions, and he has like he's has a lot of love that he has for the people in his life.
He still like subscribes to like certain like moral Jedi principles. Yeah. It's just like he's pretty like severely like mentally ill.
Yeah, and this is our first time spending a lot of time with Anakin after Ahsoka's gone too. To like, I think it's worth mentioning that. Like, I'm sure that really sort of unsettled something. Anakin, a lot of his negative qualities clearly come out in this arc.
But we always focus on Anakin and how he's like the bad guy in the relationship, but they together are a bad match, Anakin and Padme, where like Anakin will try to be like, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. And then Padme, instead of being like, what happened? Like, what happened to you? Like, why are you like this? It's just like, what's done is done. And like that's what their relationship is constantly like. But I feel like part of it is like a time pressure. Like they're both like very time pressured. And also it's just like the writing, maybe like a weakness in the writing. But I mean, they both like suck.
Yeah.
They both like suck in their relationship. They don't talk. They just talk in tropes, which I think would make Star Wars way better, is if they like deepened that. There's so many like things that need to be talked about between people, and no one ever talks about anything in
feel
like a real way.
Anakin and Obi-Wan have a really nice scene together in this, and it's one of the few moments we get with them this season.
Master Yoda feels that your judgments concerning Rush Clovis are clouded.
I believe he can't be trusted.
Yes, but there is more, isn't there? I sense a deep anger in you by my simply saying his name.
He almost got Senator Amidala killed, and I would have been responsible.
The Senator has risked her life many times. She's quite capable of taking care of herself.
They had a relationship. Once, I simply feel she is vulnerable to her emotions.
She is? Or you?
What are you implying?
Anakin, I understand to a degree what is going on. You've met Satine. You know I once harbored feelings for her. It's not that we're not allowed to have these feelings. It's natural.
Senator Amidala and I are simply friends.
And friends you must remain.
Forget this season. It's the only point in all of Star Wars where Obi-Wan confronts Anakin on like his relationship with Padme and says like, hey, I kind of know what's going on, and I see that this is affecting you really.
No, but they still are always beating around the bush.
Yeah. Well,
it's time to just fucking say shit. Like, if you think that they're together, just fucking say it.
Yeah, why isn't Mace Windu like all over his shit? Like, why isn't
he kind of gave a stank face, but I
just
don't know.
Give stank faces. Just say shit.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked, basically it ends with, I feel like Anakin does want to say something. Like, Anakin deflects, and then Obi-Wan says, okay, you know, as long as you're good with, you know, the decisions you've made, I'm happy. So Obi-Wan walks out the door, and then Anakin clearly wants to say something.
It's a very, like, child-parent, like, typical
definitely
like, conversation.
And Clovis, we get a little insight into his backstory, that he grew up with the banking clan, like a high member of the banking clan or something to that effect on Munilist, and Rush Clovis's father died, and then the person he was servant to, his whole family died, so the person who was previously his master, I guess it's also like it's a slave story, like Anakin. And Clovis's master adopts him, and you know, kind of the same, almost the exact same as Anakin, actually, because you know Qui-Gon comes in and just like, nope, you're not a slave anymore. You're coming to live with my family of weirdo monks. Come and join the family business.
I thought that was weird too, because it was like, oh, like Clovis, we've known each other for so long and used to be in a relationship. Like, tell me about your childhood. Like,
tell me about your past. Staring right into the camera.
Tell me about like who you are. Like, really, you never like knew this about him?
It's been so long. Tell me about who you used to be.
It just seemed like improbable that she wouldn't know.
Yeah, I kind of like rolled my eyes when I was like, yeah, that's a suspension of disbelief for sure, that Padme is like so conflicted about this old friend that she knew so well, but she doesn't know anything about his past. I mean, maybe he's really guarded about it, but it seems like Clovis is almost obsessed with Padme at this point, because like he's like going like so far out of his way to like try and get that to happen, which is frankly gross. I mean, throughout the whole arc.
I think like Padme is also kind of like a black and white thinker too. Like she like has a soft spot for people, you know,
and like giving people second chances,
or in like a billion trillion chances. Like once she like,
I can't wait till you watch Revenge of the Sith.
But they do have like a moment where Padme and Anakin, she's just like, we don't have a relationship, we shouldn't be in one.
What exactly are you saying?
That other people who are married have everything that we don't, everything that we won't. We live in secret, Anakin. Like it or not, our relationship is built on lies and deception. No relationship can survive that.
I know I went too far. It's just something inside me snapped.
I don't know who's in there sometimes. I just know that I'm not happy anymore. I don't feel safe.
But Padme...
I think it's best if we don't see each other anymore.
Yeah, I thought that was a huge moment. I mean, that was like the whole breaking point of this episode. As Anakin and Padme essentially break up. And Anakin doesn't go on a freako killing spree. He's like, I understand. Like, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry that you have to be sorry about this. So, like,
that was surprising.
Yeah, I was genuinely surprised. I thought it would end with him going to the bar and, I don't know, finding Ventress and beating her up or something.
And then like music plays.
Yes.
Like the.
Ventress is Anakin's rebound?
Ooh,
no, that's not what I meant. Okay, maybe that would be good,
but just like thinking about it, because we kept saying it last week about fives, it's like a domino effect of like for Anakin, it's just like one thing after the other of him losing someone important. So
yeah,
I mean, they ultimately didn't end off on that note, but they did end off with like their relationship being like severely damaged.
It was traumatic. It was like,
yeah, once again, like they never have like time, at least the narrative never gives them, the writing never gives them time to like talk it through. It just always like, once again, like tropes. And at the end, she's just like, I'm sorry. And then he's like, what's done is done.
I think in part it's, I mean, yes, obviously there are huge failures with the Anakin and Padme story, but I do think that part of it is like not having time is like factored into it. And like Padme says when she essentially breaks up with Anakin, she says, we lead a double life, like, and that was the whole thing.
We don't have anything that like people in relationships have.
Yeah, that was the cost of the double life, which they even say in Attack of the Clones. They're like,
we could keep it a secret.
We'd be living a lie. One we couldn't keep even if we wanted to. I couldn't do that. Could you, Anakin? Could you live like that?
No. You're right. It would destroy us.
We need things, and like having this double life would not get us those things.
They never solve that argument and then get married the next day.
Yes. In this episode, Clovis fully rebounds back to being shitty and takes a bribe from takes a threat from Count Dooku to...
What was he threatening? Like, I couldn't follow any of this discussion.
Don't remember what he threw. Oh, I'm going to make you the head of the banking clan.
No, I think Clovis is just like, oh, I like that. Yeah, he didn't like give him a threat. He's just like, ooh, an opportunity. Like he's like a ladder climber.
Yeah, didn't he say at some point in the third episode, like this is what or maybe Count Dooku said it for him, that like this is what his whole career has been like building towards for like,
I believe so,
for like 18 or 20 years or something. He's like, I wanted this position for a really long time.
And that's where the second episode leaves off, is that he's achieved that status, and he's also sort of bulldozed through Anakin and Padme's relationship, which, you know, is intense. But, you know, at the end of the day, Padme's still, like, happy for Clovis that he got what he wanted, and that's where that leaves off. And Anakin is still distrusting of him, but, you know.
No, I mean, Anakin is like, he's a snake.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
he's
I like
not just
I like
distrustful
that.
of him.
Yeah.
No, he calls him a serpent.
Yeah, like a serpent sheds his skin,
serpent.
but he is still a serpent at the end.
He almost sounded like a Jedi.
Yeah. Oh, you mean almost smart?
Yeah, he almost sounded
wise.
Oh, he almost sounded wise for one moment.
The final episode, Crisis at the Heart. And can I say, really nice not to have a 4-episode arc. We got that
seriously.
extra 20 minutes back in my life.
Lots of crises.
Lots of crises. They do not end.
I also like The Rise of Clovis.
Yeah, that's
love
a really
that
intense
title.
That's an intense
That'd
thing.
be the episode
Rise
9
of Clovis.
title.
Like, as soon as I like saw that title, I'm like, ooh, that means we're gonna have the fall of Clovis.
Yeah, that's what that means in Star Wars.
Yeah.
The rising action in the
Anything rises, it must fall in
Yes.
Star Wars.
And fall it does. Clovis is instated as the head of the banks, and immediately Count Dooku says, time to fuck over the Republic, and Clovis says, I don't think that's a good idea. Doesn't matter.
What have you done here, Clovis?
He's given us the banks. Gone are our debts, and gone is any credit for the Republic.
All of your idealism was just a front.
There was nothing I could do.
Everyone has their price, my dear.
The whole situation crumbles quickly and devolves into war on Scipio. Separatists and Count Dooku himself enter the planet, and we realize that this whole situation has been a ruse, that Clovis was always intended, I guess, to be placed in power so that the Republic could come and take control of the banks directly through not just the Republic, Palpatine as the executive branch of the Republic, absorb the responsibilities for the bank.
So that was always the plan.
I guess so. I'm certain it was always the plan for Palpatine to take control of the bank.
There's like so many plans going on.
There were so many plans going on, though, so it's hard to know for sure.
It's hard to keep track, and also it's like whenever a plan is going on, you're like, yes, but is this really the plan?
Yeah. Is this the plan, or are they reacting to what's happening?
Right. Or is like, will I be the best viewer ever and like understand the plan before anyone else understands the plan?
Sure. Yes.
Which I'm always doing, which
I know.
makes me not understand the plan.
Yeah, there was a lot of moving parts in this plan, but by the ending, it made sense at least. And
But
Clovis is really helpless in this.
Okay, just like so many other things in Star Wars, it's like from the viewer's point of view, it's like, bad writing on Star Wars' part, blah, blah. But then actually it puts you in the same point of view as the characters would be in Star Wars, where they're genuinely disoriented, and like you can see how the dark side could pull some of this shit off.
Yeah,
because
obscure.
It is like disorienting, like how it works.
I mean, basically, the banking clan over the course of this arc completely fails and like crumbles twice. So like, imagine all those senators who are like, oh my God, like we're about to lose all funding. Like the value of our currency is going to completely free fall.
But
like,
they were more worried that they wouldn't have any funding for the war.
Sure, that's true. Then the war will go. But it works for the Separatists too, right? Because the Separatists need the banks to work too. So, but I think like that anxiety definitely justifies the scene at the end where Palpatine receives a thunderous applause from the Senate.
Yeah, and he's like, I will take over the banks.
Yes, thank God.
I will do it.
He was so he was like the most happy we've ever seen.
Yeah,
him.
Big victory for Palps.
It was like he really
Give it up for Sheev.
This was his like Make-A-Wish moment.
Give me the control of the banks.
He was like, this was a genuine moment of joy for him. So how does their plan work?
The Sith?
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of the usual deal. Like, Sidious sends Count Dooku in and just, take care of business. And Sidious sort of cackles from his wherever the fuck he is. And Clovis is set up as the pawn, and they play both sides so that, the clones and the droids and their whole conflict do the work for them. Count Dooku doesn't really need to do much. He just sort of walks on, makes sure Clovis gives the orders that he's supposed to, and then Count Dooku walks off.
I forget, what does Dooku hold as leverage over Clovis? Because there's a part where he's like finally sitting in his office and he's like...
wasn't it like, I'll expose you, like you just got accepted by the Republic, aka Padme, and like I'll show them all that like it's actually me who put you there you're fake.
But then he says back like, no, I'll just tell them myself. And then he raises the stakes
and
even more.
I like that. Well, I think
did he say that? Did Clovis say that he would just reveal it?
He did. He said I really liked that. He was just like,
oh, I'm sad I missed that.
Yeah, it was a nice moment of
cool.
Him being standing up for himself. His whole thing is like, I need to be neutral. Like he believes in the free market and if it's just not infiltrated by the Sith Lords,
it'll work.
And he's like, I can't do this, but very quickly he folds very easily.
But this is such a like common thing where it's like, actually no, now that I know that he would have ratted himself out, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense because then it's like you could kill him and then you just have to start all over again. You have to like find someone else to take over this position.
Sure,
but then how did it go from like, why did they put Clovis in just so that it could end up going to Palpatine?
Well, I think the Senate elected Palpatine just because he was like the most trustworthy person.
No, I know, but like why even involve Clovis then? Did they like put Clovis in so that...
Maybe because...
What was the point?
Yeah, was Clovis a separatist representative?
I think he was. No, he never was.
Well, he used to be Republic. Then he was.
I think he worked for the Trade Federation, and now he's working for the banking clan. I think so. He never technically worked with the Separatists,
he's
but
like
all
adult
of those
Lux.
people. I was literally thinking the same thing.
I was saving it. I was saving it. I was gonna end. Yates was gonna end the episode with, "All right, does anyone else have anything else to talk about?" It's like I know how to make this not the shortest episode.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities to Lux because they're both
your evil plan.
That was my evil plan.
They're two white men from privilege.
Yeah,
actually, I guess he wasn't from privilege, but I don't buy it.
All right, so should we get into this?
No, we're not going off on another Lux rant.
Well, they're also the love interests, though,
and they're also like shitty.
And
like,
they also so.
But also Anakin and Padme is shitty, non-believable. But anyways, the point is they're two headstrong white men who think they know best, who are trying to make their way in the world, not choosing
and then
a side.
Just like fuck people over constantly, sort of inadvertently, and sometimes not inadvertently.
Who does Lux fuck over?
Ahsoka.
Like Ahsoka, but I mean like in the broad spectrum.
And all of those droids, Keats. You love the droids. All those droids had to die to save Lux and Ahsoka.
That's true.
We're falling into Keats's evil plan of talking about Lux.
My fingers are growing.
Keats placed.
My fingers are growing.
Keats placed, all of the perfect pieces to line up so that this conversation has all of the supports that it needs.
I think I figured out how to because it feels like you're kind of more partial towards, you're more interested in Rush's character. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's because Lux is more so, at the expense of Ahsoka, and Rush is at the expense of Padme, who's inherently less interesting.
No,
so it's
not
less
at
of a gamble.
Not at all. Incorrect. There's no interesting theme around Lux. The banking clan is an interesting theme. And also, I didn't think that there was anything interesting about Rush, that's his name?
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah.
I didn't think that there was anything interesting about him until the end when he was stuck in that moral quandary and he was like, the banking clan, my ideology about the banks, what will I do? That was interesting. And I sympathized with him because he was trying to do the right thing. He wasn't just petty self-interested. Granted, Lux is also trying to do the right thing, but there's no ideology really. He's not connected to anything interesting.
I think most of the things you're talking about are just subjective. The things that I think Lux is interesting for you don't find them interesting.
Yeah, it is subjective.
Yeah,
for sure.
I thought Rush was pretty interesting. I like how both Lux and Rush are kind of monkey wrenches into a character. I like how
that's a good way of they're both definitely that.
They are both characters that are getting us to examine larger things. So
yeah.
that's actually wow, Keats, you made a good point about Lux.
Thanks for being super sincere about that.
No, I'm serious.
I think if it was just the first Rush Clovis episode, I would say I probably definitely like Lux a lot more than Rush Clovis. Yeah, but with this new evolution of the character, Rush Clovis was an interesting character. They were able to capitalize and push Anakin and Padme's relationship to an extreme that was really exciting for me to watch, where I don't think Lux terribly enhanced Ahsoka's character in that way. I did like how they used him in the Onderon arc, and how they almost sort of reversed expectations on that whole relationship and sort of changed the whole idiom of their relationship. I liked how they denied us that relationship in a satisfying way. Also because just Lux wasn't interesting enough for Ahsoka, who's an awesome character.
No, yeah, I definitely will give you that the first 2 episodes that we got introduced to Lux with, his Onderon arc is completely a course correction from where he started. He's a lot more interesting of a character in that arc than he was in the previous 2 episodes. We were talking about subjectivity before. When it comes to Rush, I do agree with you because I think that he is a lot more interesting at the ending than he is at the beginning. But I do think that the episode's weakest points is all the banking stuff, and that's where I just not snooze off, but I do feel compelled to look at my phone or something.
It felt,
and that's a lot of his strengths outside of the Padme monkey wrench situation.
I felt like there was a lot of economic gobbledygook. Not so much of it. They talk about interest rates and loans and stuff, but they do it in a way that, feels like cartoon writers talking about it, but it's also super wordy. I just imagine being a kid and watching that and just nothing is going through. Phantom Menace. People complain with Phantom Menace. It's talking about trade routes and taxation of trade routes and vote of no confidence in Chancellor Valorum. 6-year-old kid, eyes glaze over. I feel like a kid would have a similar experience with some of those scenes. But again, I think the overall picture was good, and I think there was mostly a consistent internal logic that made those scenes work enough for me. And also, I think every time they bring it up, it is motivated by character. The Banks, there are stakes there in that story that matter to Padme and to Clovis and to Palpatine, and that is what made an episode about a character that I wasn't interested in. And this banking clan being sort of a footnote in Attack of the Clones, not something incredibly important. That type of storytelling is what made this episode and this whole arc really good.
So at the end, Clovis dies.
Yeah.
He rose and then he fell.
fell many stories. Although they don't show it on screen, and it is Star Wars, so maybe Cyborg Rush Clovis in Episode 9.
I know that if Jordan were here in spirit, he would call out the fact that Anakin could have used the Force to lift both of their bodies.
I was thinking the same thing.
I was thinking that too. Really, you're not strong enough. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he could use the Force to
use the Fortnite.
In Revenge of the Sith, he carries Obi-Wan and Palpatine on his back, up an elevator shaft.
Yes, he does.
I don't remember anything like that. But it was, that was ridiculous. But, I mean, it worked out for Anakin in the end, didn't it? He got what he wanted.
Oh, you're so heavy, Rush. Oh, what are you going to do?
And then Padme was like, no! Really? We're going to kill you, Padme?
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, no.
But Rush, sacrificed himself for Padme, but classic.
I would have loved to see Padme try and sacrifice herself and Anakin not letting her.
That would have fucked Anakin up.
She wouldn't have do that.
No, she wouldn't.
I don't think
she would.
No.
She wouldn't, but that would have been really cool. Because Anakin would have been put in the worst situation possible.
No, then he would just use the Force.
Oh, yeah. He would drop Rush Clovis.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Drop him in a hot minute.
That was the best case scenario.
Then he would get really pissed at Padme for that.
Yeah, for sure.
But, I mean...
I order you not to kill yourself.
But, I mean, the whole thing is just fucked up on a lot of levels. I mean, do you guys think that Padme did secretly kind of have a thing for Clovis?
I think maybe in some small way, yes.
Yeah, but I don't think she would have acted on it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And a first flame, returning to a first flame type of deal. I don't think it might have...
Well, she's sexually repressed, too, because she's, not getting much, physical...
That's
I don't
true.
think they're really, cuddling in bed every night.
Yeah, probably not, no.
No, probably never.
I really liked at the end when Palpatine's talking about deregulating the banks, we talk about sort of, Jessica, I think you referred to it as the characters learning a bit how the sausage is made. Like, they get just a glimpse of what's going on, but they just can't conceptualize it.
You mean with the banking clan?
With the Republic's acquisition of the banking clan.
Yeah.
And then the episode and the whole arc ends on, it holds on Padme watching, Palpatine give the speech and the whole Senate erupting in applause. And Padme...
They know something, and all of these things, it's like they know something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They know something is terribly wrong. Like, it's not just normally wrong. There's some conspiracy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like some big conspiracy, and they see just a little bit of it, but they can't like fully understand, and they think they might get it, but they like can't put it into words because it's just too much.
Padme, I mean, other than Fives who like has like the most understanding, and then he's whacked off.
He has an understanding, but his little piece of the puzzle.
Right, that's true. And then Padme sees this whole thing go down with the banking clan, and I think it finally just sort of triggers like, how in the world could it possibly have ended up this way? Like,
right, like this was too convenient.
Well, it potentially foreshadows a scene in Revenge of the Sith. I mean, this is the last time we see Padme. I'm not sure how much they were going to do with Padme with the remainder of the show. But there's an attitude change with Padme in Revenge of the Sith in regards to where her priorities are and how she views, the Republic and her role as a senator. That moment really recalled to mind conversations that we had, I think a couple times throughout the podcast, about how Padme initially started off as a character that was kind of critical of the Republic. She arrives in The Phantom Menace to have the Republic help her solve her problems, and then she realizes she can't rely on them at all and has to go back to take care of the problems herself. And just returning to an idea of a Padme that might be a little critical of the Republic and just sort of see it as what it is and what we know it is.
She gets more critical over time.
Yeah.
More and more disillusioned.
For me, in my opinion, I think that moment was like something clicked into place. A connection was made that will not be glossed over by her for the near future.
Yeah, this isn't like a deep thought or anything, but this whole arc made me think about it because it's so all over the place. Just that George Lucas, when he wrote the prequel films and then decided, I want to do the Clone Wars and then I want to tell all these tales and flesh out my universe more. Like, I don't know, just like the thought of him like choosing to do this, like there's no way he had everything planned out like from the beginning. It just makes me like really appreciate the fact that he went into this with like no real sense of direction, that he probably just went into and was like, I'll figure it out along the way.
All right. Well, like I said, I was very impressed by that arc. I wasn't anticipating to like it as much as I did. It's almost like, I almost feel like it's kind of like essential Clone Wars viewing. I mean, in my opinion, I thought so much happened with the characters, and it was such a major event in the Star Wars canon that it felt pretty way more important than I thought it was going to be. I also really loved the previous Senate arc with Padme, which was like 3 seasons ago. But I really loved that arc, and this felt very much sort of like a continuation of that type of storytelling. And I definitely missed it. Like the very first episode when it started playing, I was like, oh, this is such a breath of fresh air out of all the stuff that happened before.
Yeah, I think I would just call it necessary viewing because of the Anakin and Padme relationship.
Yeah, if that wasn't there, I wouldn't say it was.
Yeah, like just the banking stuff alone isn't really enough for me. But just the fact that we get to see Anakin and Padme's relationship in some sort of trouble was like really interesting, and I'm surprised we don't see it more. So I'm really glad that we got to see it at least once.
Yeah, I agree. Next week, so we're starting to say goodbyes to some pretty beloved characters. I mean, we said goodbye to Fives, we said goodbye to Ahsoka. We just said goodbye to Rush Clovis. Okay, not all of them are so beloved. Next week, we have a send-off of sorts for Jar Jar Binks.
It's like, oh, let's talk about the banks. Okay, now that we got that resolved.
Let's talk about the banks.
Let's talk about the banks.
We're going to talk about the banks, particularly about the episodes The Disappeared and The Disappeared Part 2, which is Season 6, Episode 8 and Episode 9. Jordan will be back. I plan on using every piece of my moderating power to pit them against each other about Jar Jar Binks.
Who, me and Jordan?
Yes, and really,
Lord.
and this is our last chance. We need to go as far as we can.
I'll talk about Jar Jar Binks whenever I damn well lose.
I'll just sit in the background and watch them.
Excellent. This has been Yates.
This is Jessica.
And this is Keats.
May the Force be with you.